name is Kyle Smith. I am the Scout Executive CEO of the Coronado Area Council Scouting America. Whereas Scouting has been a cornerstone of youth development for over a century, equipping young people with the skills, values, and experiences necessary to become responsible citizens and effective leaders. And whereas Scouting America is committed to fostering character, citizenship, and personal growth through programs that teach essential life skills, promote service to others, and encourage environmental stewardship. And whereas Scouting America provides inclusive opportunities for all youth through programs such as Cub Scouting, Scouts BSA, Venturing Sea Scouting, and Exploring, empowering boys, girls, and young adults to grow and succeed. And whereas in 2024, the Coronado Area Council saw remarkable growth and impact, welcoming 393 new scouts and engaging a total of 1,539 scouts across 93 packs, troops, crews, and explorer posts. And whereas 297 girls actively participated in scouting programs in 2024, an increase of 21 over 2023, further demonstrating Scouting America's commitment to providing leadership and development opportunities for all youth. And whereas local scouts exemplified leadership and service through 21 Eagle Scout Awards, contributing 7,382 hours of leadership projects and earning 1,450 merit badges. And whereas the dedication of scouts and leaders has resulted in 10,098 recorded service hours, representing an estimated $313,038 in value contributed to local communities within the Coronado Area Council. And whereas the values instilled by scouting, including trustworthiness, loyalty, hopefulness, and bravery, align with the ideals of our community and inspire young people to lead lives in purpose and integrity. And whereas the month of February is recognized as National Scouting Month to celebrate the lasting impact of scouting on individuals and communities across the nation, now, therefore, the Coronado Area Council recognizes and celebrates the contributions of Scouting America for its dedication to developing future leaders and serving our community. We encourage all residents to support and acknowledge the positive impact of scouting during National Scouting Month and beyond. Dated this 3rd of February, 2025.
I'm Jalen Alexander. I'm the youth advocate over at DVAC, and this is the Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month proclamation for February 2025. Whereas 1 in 3 adolescents in the United States is a victim of physical, emotional, or verbal abuse from a dating partner, a figure that far exceeds victimization rates for other types of violence affecting youth. And whereas 1 in 5 high school students have been purposefully hit, slapped, physically, or emotionally abused by a dating partner. And whereas high school students who experience physical violence in a dating relationship is more likely to use drugs and alcohol, are at greater risk of suicide, and much more likely to carry on patterns of abuse into future relationships. Whereas young people victimized by a dating partner are more likely to engage in risky sexual behaviors, unhealthy dieting behaviors, and experience may disrupt normal development of self-esteem and body image. And whereas nearly half of teens who experience dating violence report that incidents of abuse took place in a school building or on school grounds. And whereas only 9% of teens who are in abusive relationships ever tell anyone about the abuse, and 81% of parents surveyed either believe teen dating violence is not an issue or admits that they don't know if it is one. And whereas by providing young people, parents, professionals with education about healthy relationships, warning signs of abuse, and relationship skills, and by changing attitudes that support violence, we recognize that dating violence can be prevented. And whereas the Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas needs all of Salina to work towards ending teen dating violence by empowering young people to develop healthier relationships, assisting victims in accessing the information and supportive services they need, creating better and more resources for young people in need, instituting effective interventions and prevention policies in schools, and engaging in discussions with family members and peers to promote awareness and prevention of this quiet epidemic of teen dating violence. Now, therefore, we, the Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas, hereby designates February 2025 as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month and urges citizens to recognize and assist all of those who serve the rights and needs of victims of teen dating violence. So, National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month proclamation, January 2025. Whereas millions of men and women and children are victims of human trafficking, which is the second largest and fastest growing criminal industry in the world, whereas human trafficking denies victims basic human dignity, freedom, and is based on recruiting, harboring, transporting people through the use of force, fraud, and/or coercion for the purpose of sexual exploitation or forced labor. It is a crime that can take many forms and tear at our social fabric, debase our common humanity, and violate what we stand for as a country. Whereas traffickers frequently target victims and then use violence, threats, lies, false promises, debt bondage, and other forms of control and manipulation to force victims to work against their will or keep victims involved in commercial sexual exploitation. Whereas the United States Justice Department has identified Kansas as an originating state for human trafficking, and most trafficking in Kansas involves local children. Whereas with improved victim identification, medical and social services, training for first responders, and increased public awareness, the victims who have suffered this cruel crime can overcome the bonds of modern-day slavery, receive protection and justice, and successfully reclaim their rightful independence. And whereas the Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas is joining forces with victim service providers, criminal justice officials, concerned citizens throughout Central Kansas and the United States to observe National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Together we commit to a society where our sense of justice tells us that united we can eradicate this wrong and continue to fight for human dignity and the rights of every person. Now, therefore, we, the Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas, hereby proclaim January 2025 as National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month and applaud the efforts of the many victim service providers, police officers, prosecutors, national and community organizations, and private sector supporters for their efforts in opposing human trafficking in all its forms. National Stalking Awareness Month proclamation, January 2025. Whereas stalking is intentionally harassment, a pattern of behavior directed at a specific person, causing that person to feel fear and endangerment for themselves or their families. The variations in stalking behavior ranges from hang-up phone calls to more direct threats towards a victim. The likelihood of injury increases when the stalking behavior escalates over time. Whereas under the laws of Salina County, Kansas, all jurisdictions in the United States, stalking is a crime. Whereas the majority of victims are stalked by someone they know, typically an ex-dating partner or acquaintance, and 3 in 4 women killed by an intimate partner had been stalked by the same intimate partner. Whereas the statistics do not represent the true incidence and prevalence of stalking for multiple reasons, including not all victims report the crime to law enforcement. And stalking is a tactic of domestic violence and sexual abuse, so it may not be reported as the primary form of abuse and victimization, although the victim had experienced stalking along with other forms of abuse. Whereas many stalking victims are forced to protect themselves by relocating, changing their identities, changing jobs, and obtaining protection orders. Whereas many stalking victims lose time from work and experience serious psychological distress and lost productivity at a much higher rate than the general population. Whereas communities can better combat stalking by raising awareness, adopting multiple disciplinary response teams of local agencies and organizations, and providing more and better victim services. And now, therefore, we, the Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas, proclaims January 2025 as National Stalking Awareness Month.